All right, so we're working on the monitor. The next thing we're going to be doing is working on our TCP connection. Currently what we have is we have this TCP server over here, and we have a TCP SSL server. Let me change the name of this project to be server, and then TCP server SSL, like that. And then we're going to open up my project and change this to be TCP server.ssl. Like this. Okay. And then let's go ahead and rebuild it and get started on this. So we currently have this TCP client called Monitaur TCP, which just connects here. It doesn't have anything to reconnect or anything special with it, which is fine. We need to add in, let me start a notepad here. We need to add in a ping for SignalR. We need to add in a auto reconnect for TCP clients. So now that this thing is up and running, we currently have here one called send message. And we don't want this anymore. We're going to change this to be a send alert. And this is going to be an alert create request called a request. Okay. And so when we do this, we're going to have this create request, and we're already registered on the TCP server as a OAuth? No, we don't currently have this set up with auth. So if I look at this class, which is in tcp.net.client. Okay, so there is no auth. So on your connection event, what I want to pass in here is my OAuth token. And so down here, when you have your connection event, we're going to switch on my args.connection type. And we want the one here which is for connected. And when we do this, we're going to do a client.send to server, and it's just going to be this new OAuth, and then our OAuth token. Now, if you've been disconnected, we're going to do a thread.sleep for 5 seconds. Let's say 10 seconds. And then we're going to do a client.connect again to my protected read-only string called my URI, and then one for the port. Hey, the UK dude, how are you doing today? It's going great. how are you doing? Thanks for coming and hanging out for a little bit. And then we want to have the end of line. And we're going to pass in here my URI, my port, and my end of line. Okay, on your error event, I want to say if my TCP client does not equal to null and my client dot is not running, then you want to do another client connect. And then do a return task dot completed task. Okay. When we send this alert to the server, we're going to do this as a JSON convert.serialize object of my request. Now, when we get a message event, I need to have this digest pongs. So if my args dot, so we want to do a switch on my args dot message type. And what I want to say is if it's received, if my args.message.trim, we'll just say message.equals pong, and we want to say it's a ignore case. And then we want to respond here with a pong. And I think that that's it. Okay, this is going to change my interface now, because you're going to have a send alert, which is a alert create request. And that should be it. When you dispose this, you're getting rid of your client, which is fine. Okay, so that looks good now. When we look at the monitor TCP, WebSocket SSL1, we want to say that this is a send alert asynchronous, which is going to be a alert create request called a request. And we're going to send a JSON convert.serialize object of my request. A lot of this is going to be very similar. So my connection event, same thing here. So let's do a switch here on my args.connection type. because it's a little bit different of an enumerator. So this is going to be a client.send to server async. Okay, and if you disconnect, you're going to do a thread.sleep for 10 seconds, and then you're going to do a client.connect. And you're again going to go to your URI port and your end of line. Okay, on your message event, you're only going to digest a pong. And then on error, same thing here, except for that we're going to do a client.connect like that. And then up here, we need to have these new properties. And then we want to say that the string OAuth token, like that. And then we want to change this one to be a send alert asynchronous of my alert create request. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to have a new test folder in here called tests. Create a new project. And we're going to make this a new console application in C#. We're going to dump it here. And I want this to be called the monitor.tcp client.test. And so in this, we want to have a private static I monitor TCP client, which is called client. I monitor TCP. We're going to add in a reference here to the TCP client. And now what I want to do is I want to say my client equals a new monitor TCP. And my OAuth token, we don't currently know that. We'll pick one. My URL is going to be localhost, and everything else is the same. So for this, we can just choose this OAuth token for now. And then if I do a client dot, and all I have here is a send alert. So now I'm going to do a while true. We're going to do a console dot write line. And we're going to say select an option below. We're only going to have a write line here of a 1, which is a send alert. Okay, and then we're going to do a console.read line. We'll also do a console.write line of my queue quit. We'll set this first one to be set OAuth token. So we're going to have a private static string here called OAuth token. And we're going to make this a new static void menu. And we're going to say if my string is not empty or white space of my OAuth token, then we're going to say console.writeLine logged in as, and then you're going to have my OAuth token. And then we're going to say here, if my string is not null or white space of my OAuth token, then we're going to do this send alert. And here we're going to say bool was incorrect. It was incorrect choice. And so here we can say if it was an incorrect choice, then you're going to do a please enter a valid selection. Okay, that sounds good, the UK dude. I'll see you when you get back. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch on our line.trim.toLower. So if it's a 1 or a 1 point then that's going to be 1. If it's a 2 or a case 2, then we're going to do 1. And if it's a Q, then we're going to do 1 more. And this is going to be a application dot quit or something like that, right? .NET Core quit console application. Just a second. It's called now environment.exit. Okay, so if it is in fact a number 1, then we want to have another one called a static void called set access token. And we want to say a console.writeLine. Enter your access token below. And then you're going to do a access token equals console.readLine. If your string is null or white space of that access token that we added, and we're going to say console.writeLine, that is not a valid entry. Please try entering your access token below. So to do this, we can say access, so it's going to be a var access token equals string.empty, and then while it's true, we're going to input this access token. And if your string is not null or white space, then you can break out. So we could do this as a do, and then have a while my string is null or white space of access token. And then when you're all done with this, you want to do a console.writeLine and then go back to your menu. So this is going to go to set access token. And this next one is going to be a static void send alert. And to do this, we need to have this new client.sendAlert, which is a new one of these requests. And my alert type is going to be equal to something, my message is going to be something, and my status text is going to be something. So it's going to say console.writeLine. And this is going to be select your alert type. And then what you want to do is for each var item in enum.get values of my type of alert type. And we're going to change this to be a for loop. And then we want to do a console.writeLine, and it's going to be of a I plus 1 and why don't we just change it to have dashes? And we want to do a length. And then of this one, next one, we want to do my alert type of I dot toString. So now what we're going to have is an int for the alert type equals 0. And now what I want to do is I want to say if my int.tryParse of my alert type is not 1, or if my alert type integer is less than 0, or my alert type integer is greater than my enum.getValues type of alert type dot length, then you want to say console.writeLine, that is not a valid choice. And then we're going to go back up here to the top. So if you can parse that out and your alert type is greater than or equal to 0, and your alert type is less than your value, then you want to say break. Otherwise, you're going to do this, do, and this is a alert type equals var alert type equals string.empty. And we're going to do this while my string is null or a white space of my alert type. And then here we're going to say my alert type is equal to alert type int. And this one we want to say while my alert type is less than 0. Hey there, Psychotronic. I'm doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, we moved. So yeah, we're in a new location. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing again here for the status type. Okay. And then the last one is a console.writeLine. Enter the message to include. And we want to do a var message equals console.writeLine. And then we're going to do this sending alert, read line. Like this. And we'll do this in a try catch. And in here we can say console.writeLine. There was a problem sending your alert. Please try again later. And otherwise, you want to say console.writeLine. Your alert was sent successfully. And this is going to be alert type, message, and status type. And this was going to be cast as a alert type. .toString. And then at the end of this, you're going to go back to your menu. That should do it. So what we're going to start now. I'm great. How do you like your new location? Do you have a good internet connection? Yeah, we got a great one. It's better than the old place, which is pretty good too. This time we're going to start identity, web API, and landing. We also want to start our TCP server. So now in my TCP server, all I'm doing here is setting my parameters for it. And this should be a iTCP server auth. You are successfully connected to the Monitaur over TCP. And otherwise, this is going to be, you could not connect to the Monitaur over TCP. Please check your OAuth token and try again. Okay, the next parameter that this has is a user service, which I think I have one in BLL. User service TCP and user socket WebSocket. So this one we're going to add on here, tcp.net. We'll just add the whole thing client auth SSL auth. So we want tcp.net.server.auth. We're going to put this as tcp.net.auth.interfaces. Why don't I see it? Why don't I see it? If I open up tcp.net, this thing should have a user service in here somewhere. My user service comes from PHS Core Services. Okay, so that means that this one is a iUser service. Which means it only has my get user ID from the token. So in user service TCP, we can add in here a constructor, which includes my iService data access layer. Call this my service, and a protected read-only iService data access layer service. And down here we can say service .dispose. I have another question for you. Did you ever write a parser in C#? Parsing for what? Like JSON? Public, virtual, asynchronous task of this GUID. Now this is wrong. Give me just a second. If I look at my TCP net for my server, we have this iConnection manager, which has these connection sockets. So under auth, So you're doing this with a GUID. Oh, this is ugly. Because I don't want to do this way. This has to be done with a different user manager. So I'm going to open this project up here. I'm going to copy this whole thing into the Monitor backend. And I'll make a new folder here called Resources. And then we're going to open this one up. We're going to add these two projects here. That's fine. If I look at my clients here, I can get rid of this one. And this one. And now I can add in a reference to TCP/NET SSL here. And TCP regular here. Okay, and now we can modify these. So if I look at my server auth first, and I look at my connection manager, these things are all going to be longs. I'm going to change this to be a client application ID. Okay, this one is a long and a client application ID. This one has this user connection, which I'm going to make a new model, call it user con DTO. So this is now a user con and a client application ID. Okay. This is a user con DTO and a user con DTO and a user con DTO. And this is a client application ID as a long. And this one can be a TCP connection monitor auth with no I. So now this is going to be sent to client application of my client application ID, which is a long, and then a send to client application raw, which is a long for my client application ID. And this is now an iTCP manager connection auth. Okay, so now this is going to be a long for a client application ID. Same thing here. Same thing here. Okay, just working through it. Okay, almost done. Okay. Up here, this changes a little bit to be a that, that, that. Okay, my user service here. We're going to make a new class. In my interfaces, call it a iUser service the Monitaur. And we want this to be a task of a long called get client application async ID asynchronous of my string OAuth token. So this is now iUser service TM. And now this is get client application async, which is a client application ID. So if it's greater than 0, same thing here. Nearly done. Get rid of this one. Add it in here from my auth server. Let's go ahead and implement it. Okay, this is very easy. Asynchronous. It's a virtual asynchronous task. And then we're going to do a return var client application equals await service dot get read client application by OAuth token. If my client application does not equal to null, then you want to return your client application.id. Otherwise, you just want to return a 0. Easy enough. New user service TM. So user service TM comes from this. Which needs to have a new service data access layer on it. Which needs to have an automap.create automapper. There. And then in this one, we have get all connections is a user con DTO. And finally, client application. Let's run it. Okay, so now we can run it, get our OAuth token, okay, and we can now start our TCP client. Okay, we're going to set our OAuth token. We're going to send the alert as a warning. But how did that know my login? Okay, so this needs to go here. Like that. And then on my TCP SSL, on my TCP server, I want to grab on my connection event and on message event. Okay, we got my on connection event, and it says it's connected. Then it says it was disconnected. So back down here on my auth server, oh wait, where's my connection? Let's start the client again. Oh, if it's the other way around, like that. Try it again. Never got an error event, eh? If client doesn't initially connect for TCP regular, does not try to reconnect. Okay, we're going to send over the OAuth token. That time it says it's connected. That's okay. So now we're going to look at our dashboard, and we'll launch our test client. And so now we're going to send an alert as a warning. It'll be online, hello world. It says my alert was sent successfully. And when I look at my server, try this again. Let's try it one more time. It was weird. So it's like that user service was, no, it says you're successfully connected. So it ponged it. Okay, it received the message here. And then it goes back to listening. I don't get it. I never got that far. Oh, it's because the data does not equal. Okay, so it needs to be args.packet.data does not equal to null and there we go. Now it's working. It says it was null. Because it was able to deserialize that into a packet. So one thing I want to do is on tcp.net. Hey, Jen's Duck, how are you doing? It's been forever. Things are great. I know. Sorry, I've been focused on this thing for a little bit here, trying to get it resolved. I wanted to fix in my server that when we get my onMessage event, then it goes args.packet.data does not equal to null and that. Okay. And so now, when I'm over on my client and I send this alert, I'm going to do this as a new packet DTO. Which is going to be an action. The data and the timestamp like that. And then on the TCP one, we want to do the same thing. Okay, let's go ahead and get this done there. That's getting better, doing a lot of schooling, barely any time to work on my PHP and TwitchBot. Yeah, that's called getting older, man. Let's try it again. Okay, we'll start our client. Okay, and then when we send them an alert, there it is. And there it is reaching our server. True that, I just turned 31 yesterday. I'm 33 now, man. I went fast. That's interesting. Okay, happy birthday, by the way. So that's working now. So now what we want to do is we want to send those alerts. We want to post that into the database, and then also we want to relay it to the web API. The web API currently has a hub for the web hub. I could open a second hub for this. Because I think that would be the easiest way to go about doing it. So if I created a new hub in here, but then I'd have to authorize them, right? Well, no, because that thing's making that alert request, which will post it into the database, and then I can send that to the other hub and then out to the because you're sending this to all of your connections associated with that application user ID. Because you're getting the application user here. Which means that in here, you could get the whole application user. But that doesn't identify the specific client that's in. So if you're over here in your client, TCP client, and you connect and send your OAuth token, then now your TCP server knows who you are and your authorization information. So that when it receives the alert, it can now get the client that sent the alert. We want to write the alert to the database. And then we want to send the new alert to the SignalR hub. So to do this, we have our alert, which is going to get sent over here, which is listening for it. And then we're pushing this out to any users. Right? Which means that when it comes across here with client ID, that's enough. So I don't really want to have an unauthorized hub just sitting out there. Because then whoever connects to this hub, I should just have it send a client ID in secret. Hey, there's someone say sound. How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. All right, so we're halfway there. We've got our messages now coming to our TCP server. And what we're going to do is we're going to open a new web hub here, and then we're going to add identification criteria for each of these. TCP server SSL, so that it can connect to that hub, and then we can relay the messages again. I'm good. How are you? I'm doing great. But I'm actually going to go get some breakfast now. When I come back, we're going to pick up where we left off. Let's say that when we come back, we'll be arriving at, what time is it? It's currently 11. We'll say that we'll be back by 4:30 p.m. today. Thank you everybody for staying with me today. If you have any questions, make sure you pop them into our chat, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. I also put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. We've got a little bit to do to get the last little bit of communication going from the TCP server to our web API. I don't really want to use something that's open to the internet, like a SignalR hub. So I could also use like a MongoDB stream instance where we store them into Mongo and then have somebody listen. So I got to think about which is the way that we want to go about that. Thanks again for staying with me today. If you have any questions, again, make sure you pop them into the chat, and I'll see you guys in just a couple hours. Thanks so much. Don't forget to commit. I won't. This project is still so new that committing is not something I have to do as frequently as with the other projects at this time. So it's very much in flux. Thanks again. See you guys later. Bye-bye.